In the final days of May 1940, the world watched in disbelief as nearly the entire British expeditionary force, along with tens of thousands of French and Belgian soldiers, found themselves trapped on the beaches of northern France. Surrounded by the rapid German advance, outnumbered, outgunned, and with their backs to the sea, these men faced what seemed to be certain destruction. Yet from this desperate situation emerged one of the most extraordinary rescue operations in military history: the evacuation of Dunkirk. To understand how the Allied armies ended up in such a perilous situation, we must go back to the beginning of the German invasion of France. In early May, German panzer divisions punched through the Ardennes and crossed the Meuse River with unprecedented speed. Their breakthrough shattered the French defensive lines and rapidly advanced toward the English Channel, cutting off Allied forces in Belgium and northern France. By May 20, German forces had reached the coast, completely isolating more than 300,000 Allied troops. The encircled soldiers retreated toward the port city of Dunkirk, one of the few remaining places where an evacuation across the Channel was still possible. But Dunkirk was not a typical port. It had only one major harbor and miles of shallow beaches. Most large ships could not get close enough to take soldiers aboard. The harbor itself was under constant air attack. Roads leading into the city were choked with refugees, wrecked vehicles, and destroyed bridges. The beaches were filled with thousands of exhausted, hungry soldiers waiting for a miracle. That miracle came in the form of Operation Dynamo. From deep inside a bunker beneath Dover Castle, Admiral Bertram Ramsay directed the largest and most frantic evacuation effort Britain had ever attempted. The goal was simple but daunting: rescue as many men as possible before the German army closed in. The British government initially hoped to save 45,000 soldiers over the course of 2 days. But what happened far exceeded even the most optimistic expectations. On May 26th, the evacuation began. Naval destroyers, troop ships, and transport vessels were the first to arrive off the coast of Dunkirk. But they were not enough. The beaches were too shallow, and thousands of soldiers could not reach the large ships. So Britain turned to an improvised solution: small civilian boats, fishing vessels, tugboats, pleasure yachts, and ferries, later known as the Little Ships of Dunkirk. These boats ferried soldiers from the beaches to larger naval ships waiting offshore, creating a lifeline across the Channel. German forces continued their assault, bombing the beaches, strafing the crowds of waiting soldiers, and attacking the evacuation fleet. Yet, despite heavy casualties and destroyed ships, the evacuation continued. At times, the chaos was indescribable. Thousands of men waited in long queues stretching far out into the water. Some stood chest deep for hours, clinging to improvised ropes and wooden markers, hoping their turn would come before the next airstrike. Amid the destruction, acts of courage shone through. Naval crews risked their lives sailing into shallow, dangerous waters. Civilian volunteers braved bombs and bullets to rescue strangers. French soldiers formed rearguard positions to hold off the German advance, buying precious time at the cost of their own lives. Royal Air Force pilots battled the Luftwaffe high above the beaches, often outnumbered but determined to protect the evacuation below. As the days passed, more and more soldiers escaped. The original goal of rescuing 45,000 was surpassed within the first few days. By May 30th, more than 120,000 had been brought home. The operation intensified. Despite ferocious air attacks and constant danger, more civilian vessels joined the effort. At one point, more than 800 ships of various sizes took part in the rescue, the largest sea evacuation fleet ever assembled. Yet the evacuation was not without setbacks. Destroyers were sunk, men drowned as boats capsized under fire. Fires spread through the town as the Luftwaffe bombed fuel tanks and warehouses. The water near the beaches was filled with debris, oil slicks, and all the horrors of war. Still, the evacuation persevered. On June 4, 1940, the final day of Operation Dynamo, the British Navy evacuated the last groups of soldiers who could be saved. In total, 338,222 Allied troops were rescued, more than 7 times the number originally hoped for. Winston Churchill famously warned that wars are not won by evacuations, but even he acknowledged the miracle that had taken place. Dunkirk became a symbol of resilience, unity, and defiance. Though France would soon fall to German occupation, the escape at Dunkirk preserved the core of Britain's army, allowing it to continue the fight and eventually play a decisive role in liberating Europe. The soldiers who returned from Dunkirk brought with them stories of terror, chaos, and bravery. Many had lost everything: equipment, vehicles, comrades, but they survived. Families across Britain cheered as their loved ones stepped off the ships, exhausted but alive. Today, the Dunkirk evacuation stands as one of the most remarkable moments of World War II. It is a story not of victory, but of survival, not of triumph on the battlefield, but of hope snatched from the jaws of disaster. The miracle of Dunkirk remains a testament to the courage of ordinary people in extraordinary circumstances.